Good evening, Tim from Fox Speed Shop here. If you remember in our last video we were talking about the cylinder head for the Fiat 500, which we took off and we had a little look around. Well, today's the big day where we get to see some of the porting taking place. Get to use one of my favourite tools, the carbide burr on the end of the Dremel there, which is good for many things, including carving its way through very expensive cylinder heads and making an absolute mess of everything that you touch. On a more serious note, the tools that you want to be using for doing something like this are carbide burrs, which look a little bit like that. It's a flame tip, because generally speaking, grinding wheels or grinding bits will go blunt incredibly quickly. With something like this, what you're able to do is take off quite a lot of metal quite fast. Because you're taking metal off quite fast, you want to be a little bit careful with what you're doing. Whenever you're using a carbide burr like that, or whenever you're doing any porting, you want to make sure that you're wearing safety goggles. Obviously not these ones, as these are completely covered in oil, but some decent safety goggles. And speaking as a man who spent last December in hospital with a doctor picking bits of grit out of his eye with a needle, I strongly suggest you don't make that mistake yourself. When we had a look at the cylinder head last time, in the previous video, if you remember, what I mentioned we were going to be doing is having a look at enlarging these exhaust ports, because where the fire ring sat, you can see there's a large amount of sooty deposit around there, which show exactly how much material we can safely remove. So we'll have a little look at doing that today. Also around the inlet, at least an extra 2mm there. We'll clean up all the castings inside here, and then on the inside we'll also look at enlarging it as well. So why are we even bothering with the port matching here, other than the fact that Carlo Abarth has been doing this to small Fiats since the 1950s. Really it comes down to trying to get the best performance out of what is quite a small cylinder head. So you might be asking again, well, why are we not opening up the ports to their absolute maximum? The problem with doing that is, if you know anything about gas flow, is that when ports start getting very, very large, although you get a great volume of flow, it does actually slow down the velocity. And slowing down the velocity in this particular case is only going to harm the power that we're actually making. So although you can see me there enlarging the exhaust port, and I'm going to be doing the same on the inlet, I'm not going to be making them huge, not going to be hogging them out massively. Likewise, I mentioned in the last video, we're not going to be mirror polishing the inlet. If you mirror polish the inlet, you actually end up with the air flowing a little bit too fast, and when the air flows too fast, what tends to happen is the fuel will actually drop out of suspension and end up pooling on the edges of the inlet runner there, and won't actually be vaporized or atomized in the way that you really want to have for maximum combustion. So we're not going to be doing that. Why have we only left it up till now to do this? I mean, we've had the car for over a year. Mainly because it's quite hard work, it's quite long, drawn out process, and at the end of the day, the gains that are going to be had on an engine this small are probably not really worth the effort. Now, it's quite a long, drawn out process. You can see we've already started to gain a little bit of extra room around here. What I do need to work on is just getting rid of some of the ovaling in the inside of that port, make it rounder. As you can see, it's an oval shape. We can take a little bit out of the lower runner, but generally speaking, it's a lot smoother now than it was. Got a little bit more space around here. You can see in the top, we've started to smooth out those casting marks. We've begun to remove the excess material on the valve guide, just in there. Valve shouldn't overheat with just that small amount of material removed. There's a little bit more smoothing in there, but mainly we're going to focus on this lower runner here, side of the port, and just continue to polish the outside and enlarge there. By a little bit of sanding in there, we're basically finished. And we have much wider, much less ovaled ports. Just needs finishing on the surface and working on the inlet and matching the other side. So just a little flavour of the work involved there, importing and polishing the head. I know that in the video we didn't get around to looking at the inlet, but it's pretty much the same as what we did in the exhaust there. We'll call it a day for this video, and we'll pick it up again next time. I'll take you through the head just before we install it back on the car, and show you exactly what the finished product looked like and where we hope to get some of the gains. So join me again for the next video on the Fiat 500. We're going to be installing the head. We're going to be redoing those oil seals that we spoke about. We're going to be putting a new clutch and clutch pressure plate in, putting the engine back in, and then hopefully we'll have a little video of a test drive. If you like the sort of content that we're putting out, then feel free to hit like, click subscribe, or leave us a comment. Till the next time, take care.